Alistair, if Jamie Dimon is suggesting $10,000 US gold in the short term, and many analysts are forecasting $5,000 by the end of 2026, and the US bank, Morgan Stanley, of course, is suggesting a portfolio holding of 20% in gold, why is the World Bank suggesting a massive slowdown in the price of gold?
Well, I think the Keynesians would reckon that the slowdown basically means that interest rates go down and prices go down because of lack of demand and all the rest of it. But that's completely wrong. I mean, basically, what you find is that in a in a slowdown or a slump, it's both production and demand that decline. So while there is some variation in price effects, I mean, broadly speaking, the idea that a slump leads to falling prices is not quite correct. What really matters is what happens to the purchasing power of the currency. Now, in the old days, when we were on gold standards, that would have one effect. And what you would find is that, yes, perhaps prices would fall. But when you're on a fiat currency standard, of course, it's very different. What happens is that the fiat currency declines in its purchasing power, which means that prices on the streets basically rise. That's the problem. As to why Jamie Dimon and the other banks are now bullish, if you like, or talking gold up to $10,000 or portfolio allocations should be increased and so on and so forth, that I think is a very interesting point. The only thing I can say is that the head honchos at these mega banks, I think, are actually quite worried about the outlook, particularly for credit. And what they can see is that the Fed will have to respond to current conditions by loosening credit, injecting credit into the system in order to stop some sort of liquidity crunch. Yep. I think that's really what they're saying. What's fascinating is that at the last FOMC meeting last week, basically Jay Powell, he stopped quantitative tightening. He's preparing the ground in, I think, next month for more QE, which, yes, confirms that there is a liquidity problem in the market. Now, how has this arisen? Basically, it's arisen because the government is sucking up all the liquidity to fund its budget deficit, and it is leaving the real economy very short of credit. That is the problem. And so consequently, I can understand if this is the way in which Jamie Dimon and the rest of them are reading the current situation, then it does actually explain their forecast for higher gold prices.
Yeah, makes enormous sense, doesn't it?
It certainly does. I think we're in for a very busy period.
Very vulnerable period.
Very vulnerable as
and
well.
The banks recognise that. Yeah.